may know and understand what things we ought to do, and also may have grace and power faithfully to accomplish them. Please be seated. What things ought we to do? The answers can vary widely, but how do we know what things are necessary for our salvation? Moses gives the people of Israel direction in Deuteronomy when he lays out the code that the Israelites are to live by. What are the things they are to do? Obey the Lord your God by observing his commandments and decrees that are written in this book of law, because you turn to the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. When you have some time, kind of peruse through Deuteronomy, and I think you will also agree that the laws changed from that instant where Moses says, obey the Lord, and boom, that seemed to be it. And know that our chances of following all those laws are extremely slim. So we're luckier than the Israelites. Because Jesus came and took the law, which had been expanded, and puts it into plain language. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, with all your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. This story of the Good Samaritan should be very familiar. And as anything that is really familiar, there's a danger. We tend to not really read the familiar story or hear that oft repeated and memorized prayers. Our brains go on autopilot. But when we slow down in reading the gospel story or concentrate on listening to what is being read, we can be hit by a word or a phrase that jars us. And I had that happen with this story. It was the punchline, as it were, the one who showed him mercy. Mercy? Why that particular word? Wouldn't it have made more sense for the man to answer, the one who showed him love? After all, it ties in with that law that was recited at the beginning of the story. We should love our neighbors as ourselves. Now, from the HarperCollins Bible Dictionary, quoting, the Greek word for mercy in the New Testament refers to the emotion aroused by contact with undeserved suffering. That is, compassion and a deeply felt love for a fellow human being. End of that quote. And I also checked the Oxford Dictionary of the Christian Church, where I learned, quote, there are traditionally seven corporal works of mercy. And I'm guessing Episcopalians, we don't know that, but there are other of our Christian brothers and sisters who would be able to rattle them off. Could not be us. They are feeding the hungry, giving drink to the thirsty, clothing the naked, harboring the stranger, visiting the sick, ministering to prisoners, and burying the the dead. But this gets a little ahead of the lesson. At this point, Jesus is just asking the question, who is my neighbor? Or he's answering in these times. He's answering, who is my neighbor? To whom am I supposed to show or feel mercy by doing one of those corporal acts? Jesus tells us and the man that those in need are our neighbors. And he uses an illustration, a parable, that dramatically illustrates the point. And I would tend to expand the notion from just being a fellow human being to being all creation. We know that all living creatures, as well as our earth, seas, and sky, are intimately related they're intimately related. And our daily news, there are stories about us not showing mercy. Recently, we have seen everything from explosions, wildfires, ice raids, and the devastating floods in Texas and New Mexico. Even natural disasters can be magnified by a lack of mercy for our neighbors. And the Samaritan shows in one story most of those corporal acts of mercy. Recapping, he ministered to the sick man, then he fed him, gave him drink, gave him safe shelter, and lastly, he paid money to ensure that someone else would continue the care for the one who was inflicted with undeserved suffering. He was compassionate and through his actions showed mercy. And these are the things we are called to do in our world. And notice that this gives us ways to serve as we are able. Through monetary support so that others may do the work that we cannot do. Through giving food, clean water, clothing, or school supplies. Through personal contact with a part of creation that needs healing. This week, let us reflect on these lessons. How closely is our life aligned with God's will? Do we keep in mind that we are called to be neighbors to all creation through word and actions? How are we performing corporal acts of mercy? We are in this long season of after Pentecost, and it's a time for learning and reflection. The lessons through the summer will continue to call us to look at our lives. We know that things we ought to do, they're written in our heart. Our task is to take the time to listen and then act accordingly. Amen.